Nandini Bhavani Dikshita. Group B will have Nayan, Angelika, Hirajyoti, Arpana, Bijumoni. Group C will have Ripu, Debashish, Barsha, Nishamoni, Chandana. Group D will have Azizur, Santana, Pratishikha, and Upasana. And I have been informed that the classes on Monday and Tuesday will not happen, which is okay. So next we will again meet for class on 23rd and 24th, when we will have regular classes. We were supposed to have the assignments on 23rd and 24th. We will not have the assignments on 23rd and 24th. We will have regular classes on the last topic, Digital Humanities in India, on 23rd and 24th. The next 2 days, 25th and 26th, that is Friday and Saturday, both the days we will have the assignments to 12 noon to 1 p.m. this same time, which means that
Or ma'am,
basically, yes,
ma'am,
sir.
they were also asking for some topic suggestions.
We can discuss it today. Anyway, we will be discussing challenges of comparative literature. So let's make the class. I keep asking all of you to
Okay.
talk in class. Half the time,
Yeah.
none of you talk.
Yeah. Okay.
If you talk and if we interact, we can figure out. Yes, so anybody wants to start talking about this? Devashish, you can start talking like always.
Ma'am, about topics.
So that's what I'm saying. Have you all decided on the topics on what you will do? You are in which group? Wait, let me see. Devashish is in group C. This group has Ripu, Devashish, Barsha, Nishamoni, Chandana. Have you all decided on what topic you want to work on? So basically, we have 4 groups, and so we need just 4 topics. We can fix it up in class, and we can even discuss details of it if you want. One group can obviously work on the importance of archiving as a prerequisite to digital humanities in the vernacular language and make specific cases from Assamese literature. That, of course, is one thing that you can do. One group can talk about WYSIWYG editor and digital collaborative writing. So therefore, you can talk about the contribution of Assamese in platforms such as Wikipedia. And what are the other things? Anybody wants to talk about other kinds of challenges or other kinds of possibilities of DH? What would you be comfortable in talking about? You tell me. Would any of you be interested in talking about visualizations or how to create metadata? I am obsessed with metadata. Every class, if you look back at my lectures, you'll see out of the 20 things I say, I at least say 10 to 12 times I talk about metadata. Anybody wants to talk about metadata? So I don't know, if you don't respond, I won't understand. Let me. Group A, is Pranchi here? Yeah, Pranchi is here. What do you want to work on? What does your group want to work on?
Yes, ma'am.
What does your group want to work on?
Ma'am, archiving.
Okay, so group A takes away archiving. Bad deal, because everybody would want to talk about archiving, I thought. But group A has chosen to talk about archiving and keep a specific focus on Assamese language. Indian languages, particularly Assamese, because I will also end up learning from all of you then. Good.
Okay,
Please
ma'am.
turn your cameras on. I cannot see anybody. Group B has Nayan, Angelika, Hirajyoti, Arpana, Bijumuni. What does this group want to work on? Whom can I see? I can see Bijumuni. Yeah, Bijumuni, what does your group want to work on?
We are not still decided.
Okay. But is it okay? Can you think it up on your own?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. But do not repeat archiving. Do not repeat topics that other groups are doing. Group C has Ripu, Debashish, Barsha, Nishamuni, Chandana. Debashish, what does your group want to work on? Sorry, you're on mute, Debashish, can't hear.
Ma'am, we have not yet decided, but
I was thinking about that Wikipedia or WYSIWYG editor thing
That should
about
be
Assamese
interesting.
language.
That should be very interesting because it will talk about.
Ma'am, should we pick WYSIWYG or specifically
If you can
Wikimedia?
talk about other WYSIWYGs than Wikipedia, it would be fantastic. But having said that, I also understand that Wikipedia and Wikimedia in general is the most commonly known and widely accepted uh, amongst people who are not so initiated. So both are okay with me. But if you can give even few examples of WYSIWYG other than Wikipedia, I would be extremely delighted. Okay.
Ma'am,
Hmm.
are there any other options apart
Yeah, there
from
are so many
archiving and
options. Yeah,
WYSIWYG?
why not? You can talk about metadata. You can talk about what are the things you already studied. Let us look at your syllabus. Have you all studied visualization, text encoding?
No, ma'am.
Uh, Somebody can talk about a general history of digital humanities, something that we covered in Unit 1.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
That is also possible. Or somebody can talk about the accepted definitions of digital humanities or need and importance of digital humanities. Just make sure that you
Ma'am,
can, yeah, say Vijumani, say
ma'am, we want to present on digital tools.
digital tools. Great. You are which group, Vijumani? Group 2, group B.
Yes, group B.
Group B. Yeah, fair enough. What are the kinds of digital tools you would be talking about? Can I have a brief idea?
Uh,
Sorry, you are on mute,
Ma'am,
Vijumani.
like digital audio, digital image, digital text.
Okay, okay. Good, good. Very good. Done.
Okay, ma'am.
Group C, Devashish. One group can just talk about the history of digital humanities, something that needs to be done if you're doing DH for the first time. And the last group is Azizur, Santana, Pratishikha, Upasana. I can see Upasana already. Have you decided what you want to work on?
No, ma'am, we have not decided yet. But can we
But you
take
can,
history?
yeah, you can take history of digital humanities. I want some group to talk about history of digital humanities. That's okay. So only group C, Devashish's group, who will think very hard and probably they'll come back with WYSIWYG editor. So what are the 4 presentations we are having? Group A is presenting on the need and importance of archiving in Indian languages, with particular focus to Assamese. Group B, which is Biju Moni's group, is working specifically on digital tools. Group C, which is Devashish's group, is working on WYSIWYG editors and real-time text editing, real-time text creation, modification, and editing. And Group D, which is Upasana's group, is talking about a general history of digital humanities. You can,
Ma'am,
yeah.
ma'am, we were thinking about now actually need and importance of digital humanities.
Yeah. But when you talk about need and importance, if you keep talking about archiving, then there will be a match with the first group. I just don't want the groups talking about the same things.
About that debate of copyleft and copyright.
Yeah, fair enough. It is actually one of those debates which interest me a lot. Copyright and copyleft debate is a very important debate. Are you all sitting in one common classroom and talking to each other and telling me? How does it work? You're talking amongst yourselves and then you are telling me, are you all in one classroom?
Yes, some of them are in one classroom.
I could understand. People are looking at each other, the background looks similar, and then they're talking to me back. Last day, let's make sure all of us turn our cameras on and we can click a group photo. We create it as part of our learning archives. One of these days, any day. Also, before I forget to wish all of you, I wish all of you a very happy Holi. When does your Holi vacation begin? From tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it's also the same for us. So we'll have 3 days of leave starting from tomorrow till Sunday. And you also have a seminar. What is the seminar on? Nobody talks to me in this class. What is your seminar on?
Uh, Ma'am, it is about Assamese music and
Oh,
film, music and cinema.
very good, very good. I so
Ma'am,
like.
about our topic, ma'am,
Say.
we will discuss it and we'll let you know today evening or
Yeah. It's actually not even important to let me know. All that I am concerned about is the fact that all four groups will have to present and make sure that the group does not present on one topic. So we have four separate topics that they are presenting on. Otherwise, it's there's no point if the groups are repeating topics. All that is from my end is to ensure that the four groups are presenting on four different topics. You can use slides, for instance, or you can use any other media. You can share screen. Thankfully, since we are doing it online anyway, and you can share screen, you can give a small demonstration of anything that you want or think is relevant for your presentation. Slides, video, any other thing, some music piece, whatever. Make it interesting. Also, Partho sir, this assignment is out of how many marks? 20 or 30? I forgot. Dr. Neo told me, but I forgot.
Ma'am, 20 marks.
20 marks. Okay, 20 marks. So yes, and all members in the group, please, for the presentation, turn your cameras on. It's not as if some people always respond more, so they will speak on behalf of everybody, and it doesn't work that way. Let's all together come in and talk. Okay, so today we will technically finish off with the last bit of Unit 2, Challenges and Future of Digital Humanities, in which I will more specifically talk about the future of digital humanities right now. But after that, yes, I have also been asked to give classes, two more classes on the Indian scene of digital humanities. It was very thoughtful of Dr. Neo, so my thanks to Dr. Neo. He proactively suggested that I include two more lectures on the Indian context, because like we keep saying, when we generally talk about digital humanities, we talk so much about countries of the global north that unless we specifically show you projects, and I will show you projects next Wednesday and Thursday, particularly one project in great details, which I mentioned a little bit earlier yesterday, which is called Project Vichitra, which has been produced from Jadavpur University, West Bengal. We will talk about it in details and see what great things can be done in digital humanities. But other than that, as far as your prescribed syllabus is concerned, the PDF copy that we have of the syllabus, it says that Unit 2 has two components. Of the two components, the second and last component is challenges and the future of digital humanities. So I wish to specifically focus on 5 points today as far as the future of digital humanities is concerned. To begin with, my first question would be, what are data? If you want, you can take this bit down. I often talk in a discussive mode where it's okay if you don't take it down, but just in this case, if you want, you can take it down. It will help you later on. Because when we're talking about the future, these are also probable areas in which you can take up research full time. The first question is, what are data? How do we analyze such data for the humanities? It's easy if you are doing a research on, say, physics. It's easy if you are doing a research on, say, biotechnology, to understand the implication of data as part of your research. You still have huge data sets. What are the possibilities of data that we can have? And then if we do have such kind of data, how do we work around this data? What do we do with this data? What are these data for humanities? This is my first question when I talk about the future of digital humanities. My second question is, what are the infrastructure requirements? This brings us to the question that eventually we'll all need to have a digital humanities laboratory if we have to do digital humanities properly. And if we do have a digital humanities laboratory, what does this laboratory look like? What are we going to include and incorporate as part of this laboratory, and why? Are we going to focus more about social studies books? Are we going to focus more about computer systems and softwares and editing tools, and try and convert it gradually to a computational parameter? What are we going to do with our infrastructure? And what kind of infrastructure do we need? My third point is where, therefore, will be the social studies of digital humanities. I did talk about this sometime in one of these last few classes, in which I was specifically trying to say that in the process of turning digital, let us understand that we cannot stop being political. We try to create some kind of a new age because remember, till 21st century, it's not as if language learning did not have an adaptation. So this question will keep remaining that what happens to the social studies component of digital humanities? And the social studies component will of course remain, but in retaining the social studies component, are we intending to keep doing cultural studies? Are we doing computation? Are we trying and creating some kind of a third bridge? If there is a third bridge, what will be the look and feel of the third bridge? How do we really go about it? That's my third point that I want to talk about. Then yes, my next question would be till 21st century, what is a humanities laboratory? And from that humanities laboratory, how much different can a digital humanities laboratory be? So it's not just a question about infrastructure anymore. The second point was specifically about infrastructure. We may be needing computers, we may be needing softwares. My fourth point is really not so much, are we trying to create some kind of a new age? Because remember, till 21st century, it's not as if language learning did not happen in a laboratory. We do have language laboratories across the world. Have you all ever worked in a language laboratory? I don't know if you have one in your university. Has any one of you ever seen a language laboratory? No? You can search on the internet what a language laboratory is and they'll show you. Language laboratories do typically exist in many humanities departments across the world, including a few places in India. So the university where I work has a language laboratory. But my real question, my real philosophical question is how different will our laboratories now be? What are the kinds of projects we want to do from our laboratories? What are the kinds of implementations and executions we think should be done over here? And how possible is it to have one entirely suited DH lab? Or is it important that we break down the different components and make it so interdisciplinary that maybe part of it we go and do at the mathematics laboratory, part of it we go and do at a different biotechnology laboratory, part of it we go and do at a computer science laboratory? Because increasingly these questions will arise as soon as one applies for funds. It's not easy to get a laboratory created and done. The moment you ask the management that we want a laboratory for digital humanities, then they'll ask you what is the requiredness of the laboratory? What is it that you want to do in the laboratory? And then you'll say we want to do these things. It can be easily passed off by saying that half of it can be done in the computer science laboratory. Why do you need to have a digital humanities laboratory under the aegis of the School of Humanities? These are questions we really would like to keep asking. Are you understanding what I'm saying now? Supposing you're asking for a big fund because you want to create your laboratory, it's also important to know that the person who will grant such fund can obviously ask you, and it is actually a legitimate question if the person asks you, why would we give you that much fund? Because whatever little requirement you have, you can go around from this department's lab to that department's lab and you can get your work done. Is it really important to philosophically have a library and a laboratory which is solely dedicated to DH? This is one question. This is the fourth question, in fact, which I'd like to ask. And my last question is a very real-time, tangible, monetary question, something that we call the real practical question. It's what is the value proposition for digital humanities in an era of declining budgets? Because increasingly, you know how budgets, and I don't know if you know how budgets work. Does anybody in this class know how budgets work? Because if not anything, Parthajit sir will know how the budgets work. Parthajit sir, do the students have any clue how budgeting works for departments?
Ma'am, I also have actually no idea about
Okay.
budgeting works about the department.
Yeah. So somebody, probably in your case, I don't know, maybe your HOD, Dr. Neo places budgets. Somebody is doing the monetary work behind you, which you do not see. At the front level, you think you're doing a great academic work. You think you're doing a great social studies work, humanities work. But at the back end, there's somebody who's constantly negotiating with the government, negotiating with the university authorities, negotiating with people around and asking for funds to set the laboratory up. asking for money to ensure that you have a required kind of a library and a laboratory in a certain space in which you can absolutely do without it. I mean, the management can come up with a reverse proposal and say, why do you need it? Because you can do it elsewhere. What is our value proposition that we are going to that we need to find out if we are talking about the future of digital humanities? Now here I will take a 30-second break, quickly read up the 5 points and see if you understand what I'm saying. Because it's no longer purely academic. We are now talking about, policies and government decisions and plannings of taking things forward. It's not just about a text and archiving and etc. anymore. Oh, before moving further, I also want to put on record that for today's lecture, I am heavily indebted to Professor Christine L. Borgman, who is a professor and presidential chair in information studies at the University of California, Los Angeles. During my lecture today, I would be deeply focusing on a certain paper which was written by Professor Christine Borgman, and I agree with him completely in the way he proposes his ideas. I would be taking from his paper for today's lecture. Yes, I'm waiting. Yes, have all of you read? Have all of you understood the points? I can't understand anything. I think Devashish is saying something. I think Bijumoni is saying something, and I can't hear because all of you are on mute.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
I have understood what you have said, but I forgot to note that
Oh, so you want
point
me to
wise.
repeat? Okay, so I will repeat.
Yes, ma'am.
My first question is, what are data? Now that we keep talking about metadata, what shall we put the metadata on? What is the kind of data that we require in social studies, in social sciences? So therefore, what are the data that we're constantly keeping on talking about? Is it just any other book? Are we referring to a PDF article? What are we exactly referring to in digital humanities? My second question is, what are the infrastructure requirements? This is more pertaining to developing a laboratory or a digital humanities library. What do we really require? How many classrooms do we need? How many microphones do we need? How many interactive interface do we need? How many multimedia supported systems do we need? What is the kind of infrastructure that we require? The third question is, what is going to happen to the social studies component of digital humanities? How can we ensure that this is not gradually shifting and moving away entirely to computation? What can we retain from the social studies component in order to still keep calling it humanities? My next question is, what does the humanities laboratory of the 21st century look like? And how is a digital humanities laboratory different from a conventional 21st century humanities laboratory? What is the thing that is not sufficient in a 21st century humanities laboratory that we need to add on if we have to do digital humanities? I will stop here. And it's more a philosophical question here rather than an infrastructural question. This is something I even mentioned the last time. And what is the value proposition for digital humanities in an era of declining budgets? How do we convince the government, how do we convince the policymakers, and how do we convince, authorities in a university or wherever we are having a center of digital humanities, that we need this much money in an age of fund curtailment? We are also aware that across India, for different kinds of academic practices, funds have been redistributed and reorganized in many different ways. It's not as if I asked for money and I get money. So if I'm asking for a huge amount of money, what is my justification? Why do I need that much money? How do I convince the policymakers and the public university authority to grant me a certain amount of money for whatever I am doing? Particularly because half of what I'm doing can be truncated into separated projects and can be done in other departmental laboratories. How do we convince that we do not want to truncate the project, that this is one whole project? Are you understanding what I'm saying? This might look and feel a little difficult for you because I understand, given your tender years, you do not go around asking for funds. But if we are talking about the future of digital humanities, we have to keep this in mind. So tell me if you're understanding.
Yeah, understood, ma'am.
Ma'am, the last point.
Yeah. Devashish is today at a very typical low. What's happened to you, Devashish? You always understand so much every time. My last question is, how do we justifiably ask for funds? We go and say पैसा चाहिए, digital humanities lab बनाना है. And then they'll say lab में करना क्या है? We'll say ABCD करना है. Then they'll tell us A तो biotechnology lab में हो सकता है, B तो physics lab में हो सकता है, C तो chemistry lab में हो सकता है. इसलिए अलग सा lab चाहिए क्यों? जो भी मांगते हैं वो इनके लैब में जाके उनके लैब में जाके करके चले आओ. You work in your own place only with the results. Then how do we convince the fund givers and the policy makers that no, we cannot truncate the projects? It has to be done in one same place. What is so essential about the nature of digital humanities that the projects cannot be individually truncated? It has to be done in a same place, for which we need our separate infrastructure and we need our separate labs. Understood? Good,
Yes, ma'am.
good. Okay. I will start by, okay, I will read a few lines first. Digital library is the term used by the convenient, in the convenient repository of language. Usually implies the existence of tools, services, and a library imprint of cataloging and curation. Please take very minute details of what I'm saying from this. We need existence of tools, services, a library imprint of both cataloging and curation. What are the four things we need? Is the class a little off today? What is just happening? Are you all in the mood for Holi? Already in festivities? Should I repeat it again? It happens. Sometimes it just happens. You really try hard, but you can't put your mind in the thing. It happens to us even at this age. Given your years, I understand that this is a possibility. I am saying that by a digital library or a digital humanities library, not just a library that is turned digital in nature, a library which supports the functions and functionalities of studying DH, this library should have the existence of tools, that's one. Different kinds of digital tools. In our library, we would be needing different kinds of digital tools. That's one. The next thing we would be needing is services. What are services? We'll come back to it later. We just take down the word services. We will need a library catalog like every other library, and we will require finally a library curation, a proper curation of a DH library. So just the books cannot be hanging in a certain way. So therefore we need both the angles to our library imprint. We need both cataloging and curation. So now I'll repeat the question. What are the four things we need?
Ma'am,
Hmm.
digital tools, services, a library catalog, and library curation.
Correct. So now I will ask this question to the class. What are the things we mean when we want digital tools? What should, supposing all of you are now pitch presenters, you're going to ask for money and different equipments in the library, and you want to ask for digital tools. What are the different digital tools that you could be asking for? And some group will also work on digital tools. I think group B just said that you'll work on digital tools. What are the different kinds of digital tools that you could be needing? To start with.
Digital text.
Digital text is not a tool, but what are the tools that you would be requiring for your digital library? Yeah, sorry. What are the different kinds of
Computer, camera, scanner,
But what specific digital tools would you be needing?
Ma'am, digital text scanner.
Yeah, you would be needing high-end scanners, correct? You would be needing scanners as hardware and then the softwares associated with it. Do any of you know the name of some very basic book scanner?
Adobe Pacemaker.
Yeah, PageMaker is one of the nice scanners. But for that, you would have to either use a cracked version of Adobe or else you would have to buy Adobe, which also extends the possibility of what we were discussing in class, increasing the monopolistic cartel of companies which have already made big. Do you know the name of any other open source book scanner?
Cam scanner.
That's still the same problem. Okay, I will help you in giving the name of something that I love. So we have 4 days gap in between. What you can do is you can quickly download ScanTailor and see how it works. Quickly see how it works. Then next Wednesday when we have a class, let's also discuss this in class and see what can be done with the ScanTailor. It's an amazing app. It's an amazing tool. I don't know if it exists as an app, I don't know. But it's an amazing tool. It could exist in an app. Download it in your computers and see what can be done with a ScanTailor. It's fantastic. Yeah, so we do need high-end scanners. What else do we need? If you go and ask for money and you say that we need a scanner, they'll say, okay, take a scanner. How much would it even cost? They'll just give you a scanner. But after scanning, what does a DH student need to do? What does a DH scholar need to do? We scan it and keep it. Typically, what is the format of a scanned document? In what digital format do we get the output of a scanned document typically?
PDF.
We could get it in PDF, we could get it in JPG, we could get it in such kind of image formats. Now what do we do with that? Supposing we get our output in a .jpg. Will that be machine readable?
No.
So then what do we need to do?
OCR.
Yeah, so we need a good OCR. And supposing if there are images, if there are more than characters, So I'm actually trying to explain how it is important for all of you to understand what you need, because after we finish off with the classes and all, if you are the ones who will end up creating your own digital humanities lab, you need to know what you require. You need to have some kind of an image reading software. What are the different kinds of image readers that you know of?
Google Lens.
Then again, Google. How can you not come with examples other than Google and Microsoft and Adobe? See, that's the point. That's exactly where we need to interfere and get and start talking. You see, your answers are correct answers. What you're saying is not wrong. It's actually the correct answer. If you ask 100 people, 100 sensible people will say Google Lens. What is the problem in not understanding that? But that's precisely the whole point. In order to convert our humanities studies into a digital prospect, what we're eventually doing is we are making business for already extremely mercenary companies. We're only extending the monopolies. That is because we are not creating our own tools. Remember, I keep talking about creating your own tools, creating your own tools. I think it's high time that all of you start thinking about how to create your own image readers. It would be difficult, but at some point of time, we need to start. We cannot keep saying Google Lens. We cannot keep saying Adobe PageMaker. We cannot keep saying Microsoft PowerPoint. We have to come up with our alternatives. We have to create our own tools. Because half the time we would be reading very hefty and lofty hardware. On top of that, we're constantly asking of buying, those kinds of licenses, those kind of copyrighted tools, which already make a whole lot of money. And they are used by people who do not learn the art of making your own tools. If you are at the position of learning how to make your own tools, make best use of it. What are the other kinds of things you would be needing? All of you are still talking about static image. Would none of you be working with real-time texts, real-time games as texts? In your syllabus, you do not have any component of games, no? I don't remember talking about games anytime. Just quickly, let me see once again. No, we do not have anything to do with games. No. If you were to create your own e-learning modules, if you were to create your own little games, you would obviously need those kinds of tools and software. And then we would require people who are skilled in these. And when we require people who are skilled in these, what kind of librarian should we need? Should we need a librarian? Just give me a second. So our university has now gone mad. Everybody is coming in. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, the next question was, supposing now we need different kinds of librarians to operate this library project. What should our librarian know? Is it okay if the librarian just knows about access numbers and call numbers? What is our librarian going to deal with? Just books? Plain texts? Probably very old manuscripts. So we also need some knowledge about manuscript restoration, manuscript maintenance. Is it the same as just keeping old books? And if not, how different is it? What special skill set does it require to maintain manuscripts, which is over and above the maintenance of? Is Francis saying something? Because I can't hear what you're
Ma'am,
saying. I
can
just
you
thought you were
repeat the
speaking
last
something.
line?
My question is probably what are the different things that we would be dealing with, which is where we can go and pitch our presentation and say this is why we need funds, this is why we need money. So librarian is not just a librarian who's done enough of library sciences and information sciences. Of course, our librarian will also be looking at. We would be looking at somebody who can deal with manuscripts of the different things that we would be digitizing and archiving. It's absolutely necessary that we do some good justice to our own ancient texts, the ones that needs to be digitized more than the ones that still can be easily available and bought. So what are the different skill sets required for maintaining manuscripts, restoring manuscripts? That's one. My next question is, our librarian, typically the kind of librarian laboratory we are talking about, we'd also be talking about, very old audio records. You immediately have a coming seminar which is about audio and audio visuals. How do we procure, how do we digitize, how do we archive and create metadata about the different kinds of old audio records, say? But format of traditionality, which does not necessarily have documented versions. I mean, you can have documented versions, but the whole deal about folk versions, folk narratives is the fact that the record that you have done and the record that I have done can be different. It is not a standardized document which exists in print. So those can put a metadata on different kinds of formats of documents. Text document, audio document, audio visual document, with the knowledge of cultural studies. We need a group of people who have a very discrete sense of cultural studies, added to which we need people who can work with the maintenance of manuscripts, who can work with the maintenance of records, old records, vinyls, or whatever format we'll access them through. Then we need somebody who has complete understanding of how to create a metadata. Have you all already learned about Dublin Core? Did you start metadata in class? Once you start doing metadata, I don't know, maybe you will start learning about Dublin Core. I have the Dublin Core with me. I can send it to you. Just give me a moment. I'll send the Dublin Core document to you. The Dublin Core metadata element set is one of the key style sheets for creating metadata. I think it's interesting. I always keep talking to this class about metadata. Maybe you can see how to create metadata. It's a style sheet of creating metadata. Of the many important style sheets that exist, Dublin Core happens to be one of the most important ones. Oh, you can't attach a file here? I may be using an older version of Google Meet over here. Okay, what I'll do is I'll send it to Parthu sir. So Parthu sir can send it to the rest of the class in due time. Wait. Parthu sir, I have just WhatsApped you the Dublin core metadata set. If it is okay with you, could you please share it with the rest of the class? Because I can't attach the file in the Google Classroom,
Okay,
the
ma'am.
Google
Let me
Meet.
see.
Mhm. Later on also, it's not important to do it right now, at your own convenient time. So we need somebody who has complete knowledge about such metadata sets, style sheets such as the Dublin core. I'm trying to teach you how to make an argument about procuring your own metadata. Only meaning we need this kind of people who have knowledge about so many different areas. So it is probable that in a computer science laboratory we have someone who knows how to write a program, but that same person in the computer program will not be able to tell you how to create the metadata of your social studies manuscript. So we need different kinds of service areas. We need different kinds of service personals who will come together talking about a certain structural understanding of a social studies text that you would be accessing and reading. And then comes the idea of the cataloging, because half the time our cataloging might be real time. Only for static texts, which have been digitized and which are kept as if it's another analog format. Only thing is it has been digitized and has been now been kept on a computer instead of a library rack. That is okay to have been, cataloged and kept at a static level. So what is the catalog number today is probably also the catalog number 5 years later, because the medium in itself is static. Such cannot be said about real-time texts that are constantly on the move. How do we catalog such kinds of texts? These will all require different other skill sets, different kinds of understanding of digital humanities. So we will basically need different systems. We will need the different kinds of tools, and there's no end to understanding what different kinds of tools we will need. We will need tools which help us in working with texts, images, audio, video, metadata sets, map making, readers, different kinds of readers, image readers, different kinds of prompters, which will not read in itself, or maybe it will read in itself, but it will prompt you next how to go about the process further. We need different kinds of digital tools which can aid in prompting the future of a text. You know what I mean? So you do understand that there are many essay writers, for instance, at a very base level. Have you all heard about these essay writers? You give a topic to the program and then it writes an essay for you. These are all prompter tools. So we would be needing different kinds of tools. We would be needing translators. We would be needing real-time translators from one language to another, and maybe not real-time translators as well. All different kinds of tools we would be requiring in this kind of our DH lab. Next, we would be reading services who can cater to these skill sets and therefore make the lab in a working, viable condition. Then we need to have the required skill sets of cataloging whatever we are doing in our lab, which in itself is a different philosophy of curation. It's not just 10 books and keep them here. It's going to be a different thing altogether. Have you all understood? For some reason, the class is not quite there today. This never happens on other days. What is happening? All of you also want to go out playing Holi. Students at my university already got a scolding from me because that's what they were doing. They were all entering the faculty room trying to play colors. And I was shouting at them saying, go away, I'm giving a class. Are you all also in your mood for Holi? Today somehow the class is not there. It happens. Every day is not same. Share with me, tell me what's going on. All okay, but somehow today it seems a little different.
Ma'am, it was
Anyways,
not about Holi.
so what is it about?
I don't know, but our varsity week is going on.
What does that mean?
University week.
So what happens there?
Extracurricular activities like
Oh.
cultural, literary events,
Oh, so that is why all
dramas.
of your minds are in your extracurricular activities.
No, not
No,
really,
because
ma'am.
every other day I see that the class is very focused, everybody listening with a whole lot of attention, and today everybody is looking here and there. So what is happening? these are real problems. I acknowledge them, and I think it's sweet. I don't mind. That's what student life is all about. The whole thing needs to be there. You need to have fun, enjoyment, learning, sports, festivities, extracurricular activities. Anyway, have you understood what I'm saying? The point is, in order to have a proper future of digital humanities, we need to design our own laboratories where we can do our own work. In one line, that is the bottom line probably. But in order to understand what kind of a lab we require, yes, we have to understand what are the works we are doing. Accordingly, there's no end to asking for tools. And because every work is interrelated, not say that the digitization will happen here and the metadata will happen there and the archiving will happen there and the manuscript restoration will happen elsewhere. Half the time you will not be able to use your flash in your phones or in your cameras when you're pick a manuscript, because the manuscript is so torn and tattered. So somebody needs to be there who will give you idea about these things. There's no end. The argument which we need to keep making to all policymakers up there who will give or not give funds to digital humanities projects is to say that there are possibilities that many of these works can individually be done in other kinds of labs, but that will truncate the projects. And digital humanities is an organic life cycle kind of a project. We cannot think about truncating them to such an effect that there would be lapses in time, there would be lapses in energy, and there would be lapses in sequence between the truncated projects. It has to happen as an organic whole, simultaneously, parallelly. And unless we end up creating this laboratory, we will not have any future of digital humanities. There's no point in studying about 10 essays in a book, which is hardly non-digital in nature. So there's no point in reading a hard copy book called The Future of Digital Humanities, unless we are implementing it in practice through our own labs, by creating our own labs, creating our own tools, and working on such labs at a full-time basis. Yes, please come, sir. Is that clear to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions, comments? We are from the English department, sir. Can you please go and talk to the madam there? Shivani madam sits in that room. Shivani madam sits in there and I'm giving a class here. I'm so sorry, sir. Yeah. Any questions, comments? Okay, there's a whole lot of mess at my end also today. Then what? See you all again on 23rd, 12 noon. Okay? The Indian context of digital humanities. Have a happy Holi, all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Same
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.